Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about why narcissists behave the way they do. We often hear that it's because narcissists think so highly of themselves, so I wanted to address that on the show today. Pathologically narcissistic people are masters of deflection. If you only listen to what narcissists tell you, then you would believe they think they're the most important person that ever existed, that they're amazing, and that they love themselves unconditionally. But does that really hold up under scrutiny? The answer is no. For example, narcissistic people are usually very jealous and envious. This often shows itself as jealous behavior on their part, attempts to sabotage other people, or as claims that others are jealous and envious of them. But does someone with adequate self-worth who truly loves themselves have anything to actually be jealous of? Do they have the need to believe that others are jealous of them? Would they need to sabotage other people out of the fear that their own efforts will be exposed as inferior if somebody else succeeds? No, they do not. People who have sufficient self-esteem don't fear that they'll be judged as inferior by others, and they don't need to boost their own self-worth with the feelings, successes, or failures of other people. Another example would be that narcissistic people insist their needs come before anyone else's. On the surface, this can look like self-love and self-care, but is it really? If we look at their behavior, we see that it's not. People who truly understand their own value don't fear their needs are going to be overlooked by other people. They don't feel the need to remind others constantly that they're important because they're not afraid that they'll be forgotten. And their self-esteem is not dependent on whether other people acknowledge their value or not. People who truly love themselves are able to validate themselves. They don't have to scramble for validation from other people or rage in the fear that they're not going to get it. And of course, people who truly love themselves and practice healthy self-care can attend to their own needs themselves. They don't have to try to force other people to take care of it for them. Another indicator that narcissists don't feel the way they claim to feel about themselves is blame. When someone truly accepts and loves themselves, they understand that they're responsible for their own behavior and their own feelings. They don't have to try to foist that off onto other people. Someone who is truly secure in their own worth and their own self-esteem is able to take responsibility for things. They don't need to blame others because they know it's okay not to be perfect. They're not afraid of failure or success for that matter, and they're able to accept that they've done something wrong or that they've made a mistake. This is one of the biggest differences in the way narcissistic people view themselves and the way that healthier people view themselves. People who are not narcissistic know that it's okay to be human and have flaws. This is not some huge indictment of your character. They're not afraid of these things, and they're not afraid of people finding out about them. For most narcissists, their entire lives revolve around hiding that. In fact, the false self that pathologically narcissistic people project onto the world is a huge indication that they don't really believe they're the greatest thing that ever lived. Why fake it if that was really true? Why do you have to hide who you really are if you're okay with it? Now, we all have a public face that we show to the world, of course, and we all behave a little differently with people that we know really well versus strangers, but the difference between who a pathologically narcissistic person really is and what they show to the world is so enormous that it's not a true representation of themselves in any way. It's a complete and total fake. The distance between their actual and ideal selves is so large that it's one of their main causes of stress and dysfunction. People who truly love themselves don't have to fake anything because they're okay with who they are. This whole charade is just not necessary for them. When you really love yourself and you truly understand your value, you don't have to deny who you really are and pretend to be somebody else. It just doesn't happen. Control is another red flag that telegraphs how they really feel. When someone really understands their own value, they don't feel the need to control others so that they'll get their needs met. They don't feel the need to make sure everything goes the way they want it to go. They don't feel the need to force other people into taking care of them or force themselves onto other people. They don't feel they need to manipulate and trick and lie to people in order to have somebody in their life. They don't need to create roles that others are expected to act out in order to make life acceptable and okay to live. When you are really secure in yourself, you don't fall apart because something happens that you don't like or that you didn't expect. You don't fall apart because people didn't do what you want them to do. Perhaps one of the biggest indicators that narcissists are not what they claim to be is the way that they generally treat other people. Pathologically narcissistic people are often purposely abusive and cruel. How this looks like self-love to some people, I really don't know, but I do hear that all the time. I would guess that some people mistake preoccupation with the self as love of the self, but it isn't. People who love themselves do not feel the need to destroy others because they're upset or because they're feeling badly. They don't feel the need to hurt other people or ruin their happiness just because they can't find their own. They don't feel justified in these behaviors or that other people owe them something. Narcissists' own self-sabotage, risk-taking, and self-abuse falls into this category too, by the way. When you love yourself, you don't need to hurt other people or yourself. There's no way around that. There's absolutely no way around that. It's just what it is. When you look at the behavior of narcissistic people, it becomes obvious that people who really accept themselves, care about themselves, and value themselves just don't act this way. They can lie all they want, they can deny and project and accuse all they want, but it doesn't matter because the proof is in their behavior. The simple truth is that when you're a secure person who knows your worth and honestly loves yourself, you don't do these things. The pathologically narcissistic person's idea of what self-love looks like is so completely and totally wrong that they don't even realize they're blatantly contradicting themselves. They don't realize that someone who loves themselves and is secure in their value of themselves has no need to do or feel any of these things. It just doesn't come up. But you can see it, and now you know what you're dealing with. A person so unable to accept themselves that they'll never be able to accept you. A person so deficient in their ability to love themselves that they have nothing to offer other people. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online and over the phone, so if you're interested in speaking with me, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Bookings tab to go ahead and set up an appointment. Or you can use the link that's available down there in the information section for this video. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.